stop, we're gonna make it count. When one of us is tired out, the other one will hold it down. We're gonna spread the love, we're gonna spread it round. We're all over the city now, and we're down in the underground. It's a good day to fight the system, to fight the system. It's a good day. It's a good day. It's a good day to fight the system, to fight the system. I woke up feeling great. The birds are in the trees. They're singing me a melody. La 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 la, fuck the police. My head is on straight. My heart is in peace. My soul is incredibly ready to change its story. It's a good day to fight the system, to fight the system. It's a good day. It's a good day. We're never gonna stop. We're gonna make it count.
Let's go. And for those of us who joined us on Monday, we've upgraded our Zoom account. Many of you are here now, happily, not locked out of Zoom. And if you are watching us on YouTube or Facebook Live, we are so glad you're here with us. Welcome, whatever online platform you're using to join us here. We're gonna let folks come in for just a little bit longer and then get started. Thank you so much for being here, y'all. Thank you to my friends from Alabama, my friends from Nashville, Wisconsin. We got the Catskills in New York State, not too far from me. Sacramento, what's up? Virginia, my home state. Hey, everyone. Keep dropping into the chat. Keep dropping into the chat where you're coming from. And who knows, if you scroll up, maybe you can find a new friend who lives somewhere near you. Thanks, y'all. Keep it coming. It's beautiful. There's 3.6 thousand of us here on Zoom and probably many more on YouTube and Facebook. We would take up a small stadium if we were here, if we were all together, which is amazing. All right, y'all, let's get it started. Why not, right? Can I get a fade, maestro? All right. Welcome, welcome, everyone. So glad you're here. I'll just call it 4,000. All 4,000 of us gathered here tonight. So whether you're here, maybe you're live on Facebook, hello Facebook friends, or YouTube, hello YouTube live friends. We're just so grateful you're here with us on this Wednesday night. You're all very busy people with a lot of responsibilities, children, jobs. Hopefully you are out there enjoying the summertime in some way, shape, or form. So just thank you for taking the time to log on and to plug in with us tonight. My name is Grace. I live in Brooklyn, New York on Lenape land, and I have the great pleasure of working for Surge. And for those who aren't looking at the screen right now, or folks who need the image description, you'll hear other speakers throughout the webinar doing this. I am a half Asian lady with long black hair and a striking blonde streak to the front, wearing a white button down. And like I said, I work at Surge, showing up for racial justice, which you'll hear more about throughout the call. But I work at Surge, I work to show up for justice because I care. I care about fighting for racial justice. I care about fighting for economic justice. I care about building a multiracial democracy that works for regular people like you and me, and not just people on Wall Street. I care. And you know, it's a really brave time to care, y'all. And I think you're here because you also care. We're up against some pretty incredible odds. But we aren't the first people to be up against incredible odds. We aren't the first people in the history to care about justice, to care about advancing the causes of equity, and to go up against incredible odds. And we're going to hear some of that on the call tonight about where we are in this particular moment. And then we're going to hear about how we move through it and how we can move through this moment together. Because when you have smart strategy and when people come together across lines of difference, we have seen throughout history that we can pull off really incredible things. So you're going to hear all about that. You're going to hear about those plans tonight from organizers, members of Surge. We have some partner organizations that are on right now. And there are some folks on this call who are Surge old hat. You've been rocking with us for a long time. And I also know that there are a lot of folks who are brand new to showing up for racial justice. So just to let you know, at the top of the call, Surge, or Showing Up for Racial Justice, is the largest organization in the US that explicitly organizes white communities for racial and economic justice. We're not all white, but we understand the importance of why white people need to show up for racial and economic justice so that we can all have nice things and racism doesn't keep us from getting them. We have thousands of members across the country. Shout it out in the chat if you're a Surge member. We have 150 plus chapters across the US and Canada. And also shout it out in the chat if you're a chapter member. We love our chapters. And we're a home for white people who want to take action to organize white communities away from racism and the far right and towards solidarity with people of color. So if you are new here and you have been feeling the despair, you've been feeling the of the moment, and you're looking for a community, welcome to ours. You belong here and we need you and we will put you to work, we promise. Just some quick technical things at the top of the call. I have my friend, the lovely Els down below, who will be joining us off and on, also Maxwell, and they are our incredible ASL interpreters. They'll be up so that folks who need them can access this call. We also have captions, which if you need that, you can access them on the bottom right-hand part of your screen. We'll also be turning the chat on and off throughout when speakers are speaking, just so we can pay better attention, but we'll turn it on for moments of applause so that you can tell everyone how wonderful they are. And finally, if you have friends and family who you're like, they were working or they had a commitment and couldn't be here, everyone who registers for this call will receive a recording in your email tomorrow from me. Okay, I think those are our logistics. Let's start it off. At Surge, we like to kick off our calls with art or music, something that gets us into our feelings, because music and art have carried the spirit of social justice movements for centuries in this country, in the world. And they play an important role for all of us. So I'm really excited to start off the call with some music from one of my favorite musicians coming at you live from Richmond, Virginia, Aaron Lunsford. Give it up for Aaron, y'all.
Hi, everybody. How's it going? My name is Erin Lunsford. I'm a white woman with blue eyes, and I'm wearing a blue shirt, and I'm standing in front of a lot of pothos plants. I'm calling in from Powhatan land in Richmond, Virginia. I'm gonna play a song for y'all that I wrote in January of 2016 after attending the Women's March up in Washington, D.C. Drop it in the chat if you guys were also there. I went with a group of my friends, and some of my friends brought their moms, and I was pretty scared going into the day, but after I left, I felt so inspired and so connected and so held by that community. And I had many fears before attending the Women's March, but actually marching felt like an act of love. So I wrote this song, Neighbor's Eye, about acting out of love and not out of fear. And it's in the spirit of love that we're organizing and showing up today on this call to combat racial injustice and fascism. So I'm happy to be here with you guys, feeling very inspired. This is Neighbor's Eye. We fill the streets with tears, force you to wade through all our fears. We're crying, crying out. We fill the hall with voices. We won't stop rejoicing till you hear us calling out. Shoulders sore from fists held high, boots on the ground, but our spirit flies. How will I know if I'm on the right side? I'll tell by the love, tell by the love in my daughter's eye. hint of heart need not apply. If it looks like truth in your mind's eye, then speak it aloud. Brother, we must resist. Sister, we must persist. This is no easy road we're going down. Shoulders sore from fists held high, boots on the ground, but our spirits fly. How will I know if I'm on the right side? I'll tell by the love, tell by the love in my mother's eyes. It's so easy to fear, but one heart at a time we can spread the love from your eyes to mine. Shoulders sore from fists held high, boots on the ground, but our spirit flies. How will I know if I'm on the right side? I'll tell by the love in my neighbor's eyes. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you so much, Erin. Give it up for Erin Lunsford in the chat, y'all. We're going to drop that song link so that you can listen to it over and over again for the rest of the evening. Yeah, give Erin some love. Thank you, Erin, so much for being here with us tonight. All right, y'all, we're going to keep it rolling. I'm going to pass it over to the Executive Director of Showing Up for Racial Justice, Erin Heaney, who's going to talk to us about the moment that we're in right now. Erin, take.
Hey y'all, I'm Erin, and I am lucky and honored to be the Executive Director of SURGE, or Showing Up for Racial Justice. I am a white woman with brown shoulder-length hair and a black leather jacket. I know I am in great company tonight, y'all, with so many like-minded folks who have come from all across the country. There's almost 4,500 of us that have gathered here tonight. I'm seeing my childless cat ladies in the chat, our women's march friends, and I'm sure lots of folks who are brand new as well. I'm so glad you're here. As Grace said, SURGE is the largest racial justice organization in US history focused on organizing white people. And I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. Many of us are women and non-binary, and a hell lot of us are queer, because, you know, as Megan Rapinoe says, you can't win without the gays. What's true in sports is also true in organizing, y'all. Like many of us, I would imagine on the call tonight, my first experience of activism were really around gender, right? My first action was against my aunts and uncles. I come from a big Irish Italian family, when the girl cousins in my family were forced to wash the dishes while the boys got to go outside and play. And I thought that was bullshit, and I ordered a work stoppage. Now, full disclosure, I'm the daughter of a union organizer, so, you know. And we won our demand quite quickly, which was that the boys had to come in and wash the dishes too. And victory tasted great. And like so many of us who are white, I was politicized around race much later in life, right? And a really important moment for me was being incredibly kind of inspired by the young Black working class people in the streets during the Ferguson uprising in response to the murder of Michael Brown by the Ferguson police. And I found SURGE in that moment almost 10 years ago. Well, y'all, 10 years later, damn, these last 3 days have been really energizing, haven't they? Because 2 weeks ago, things are not looking good, right? Between Biden's ongoing complicity in the devastation in Gaza, the horrible debate performance, and the Trump assassination attempt, the odds did not seem in our favor. Anyone else kind of demoralized a couple weeks ago? Many were saying the election was over, right? But this moment is presenting a hell of an opportunity for a reset with fresh energy, and you are part of that, right? It is not going to be easy to defeat fascism in November, but right now we have an opportunity and an obligation to seize this moment, because what we do in this moment is going to matter enormously for the future of this country, y'all. What's also true is that if Kamala Harris loses, those in power at the Democratic Party, they might be upset, their feelings are going to get hurt, a bunch of people are going to threaten to leave the country, but fundamentally, they're going to be okay. Kamala Harris loses our people, right? Regular working people, trans people, Black people, undocumented people, Jewish people, disabled people, poor people, Muslims, and the many thousands of people in Surge's base and all of the working class people we work alongside will not be, right? If we do nothing to prevent her from losing, immigrants face mass deportations, trans people lose life-saving healthcare, right? Climate change goes completely unchecked. Affordable housing and public schools end up gutted and privatized, right? And so you might be on this call tonight because you know that over 44,000 Black women came together on Sunday within 12 hours of Biden passing the baton to Kamala to get organized, raise money, and make commitments to action. Did y'all hear about that? Surge members also answered the call, right? We did a call on Monday. There was so much energy for people jumping in. We had almost 8,000 people with us on Monday. That's a hell of a lot of women, right? Ready to step up to the plate and organize white people to beat Trump, right? Because here's the thing, you all. We knew that MAGA was going to come hard for whoever the Democratic nominee was. But with it now likely being a Black woman, MAGA is going to be absolutely ruthless in their use of racism and misogyny to try to peel away white voters, right? They're going to use their classic divide and conquer strategy, racism, transphobia, misogyny, to divide us and pave themselves a path to power. And these racist attacks are especially geared at white people, right? To get folks to act out of racism instead of solidarity. The right also has a strategy around gender, right? As another divide and conquer tactic to win. We know gender is made up and constructed, right? In theory, men are this way, women are this way. And we know every person who is not a straight, rich, white Christian man will be under attack in MAGA's vision for this country, right? And so the right uses racist attacks to try to convince white women to choose allegiance to whiteness over the clear common cause we have with women of color and everyone else they're targeting, right? And we also understand that trans people on the front lines of these division tactics as well, right? The right is using and trying to create a moral panic around gender and sexuality that attacks and blames queer and trans people for what's wrong in society, instead of those at the top who benefit. Are you with me? Give me another emoji if you're with me. So y'all, we're up against a decades-long strategy that uses racism to divide us. And we're in the midst of a white backlash to the racial justice uprisings of 2020 and to changing demographics in this country. I want to share something kind of profound that a comrade, Tarso Ramos, who directs an organization called Public Research Associates, they study the far right, our opposition. He shared this sobering fact a few months ago. No democracy has ever survived the majority group becoming the minority. I just want folks to let that sink in, right? We are in the midst of changing demographics in this country and an intense white backlash. And so for those of us who are white, we have an incredibly important role to play and an incredible responsibility in this moment, right? Our primary task over the next 15 weeks is defeating MAGA in November. The amping up of the racist divide and conquer strategy aimed at white people is a clear lane for us, right? We have to step into, and we have to bring more white women towards a vision of solidarity and long-term progressive change instead of the vision MAGA is peddling, right? People of color, especially Black women, are organizing and mobilizing and getting their folks in formation, and it's white people's role to make sure that white voters do exactly the same thing, right? So y'all, this means that we've got to look some patterns we've got to change up, right? I think in 2016, too many white women, too many of us spent our precious energy distancing ourselves from other white women, right? Trying to prove we were good, blaming others, right? And this is not a winning strategy. This does not build us the power that we need to get out of this situation. And it leaves the work to people of color, and that's not their job, right? Our job as white women is to turn back to the communities we come from and organize more and more people towards us into solidarity and a vision for liberation led by people of color that is a better world for all of us. Will you join us? Because listen, we know how to do this. Surge was made for this moment, and we've been building steadily over the years, right? We delivered white voters in Georgia in 2020 twice, delivering the presidency to Joe Biden and flipping the Senate to Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff, right? In Los Angeles, in Ohio, in Buffalo, in Louisville, we've gone toe-to-toe with racist opposition to move white voters to reject law and order campaigning to deliver really, really big wins, right? We've gone head-to-head with Moms for Liberty, electing school board candidates and rejecting their transphobia, right? And we defeated an abortion amendment in rural Kentucky. You're going to hear more about that soon. And then, the next year we delivered a Democratic governor the next year in one of the whitest, poorest, most rural states in the country, y'all, right? We are Trump and MAGA's worst nightmare. We are a well-oiled machine of white people who have rejected racism and are committed as hell to getting more of our people to reject the racist lies of the right. They know that we have the power to fuck up their plans. And so when we fight, we win. And we got to go into these next 100 days fighting like hell, because I know if we do, we are going to win. So if you are a person that has been with us for the long haul, been part of some of those campaigns, I want you to shout yourself out in the chat. If you phone banked, if you knocked a door, if you helped bring someone to a new meeting, if you made a donation, right? Thank yourselves, shout yourselves out in the chat. What did you do with us to help get us to this moment? And if you're joining us for the first time tonight, welcome. You are needed, you are right on time, and you are joining one hell of a community who have chosen to show up over and over again to do our part to bring more white people into the multiracial movement we need to win. And with that, it is my honor to kick it over to Pam McMichael, one of Surge's co-founders, one of my mentors, and someone who has paved the path for so many of us who are white to enter this movement. Pam, over to you.
Oh my gosh, thank you, Erin. Thank you so much. It's so good to be here with all of you. Thank you first, Erin, for that beautiful song. And Erin, I'm just so energized by your framing and excited to be with everybody tonight. Thank you, Grace. And thank you all for being here. My name is Pam. I'm 70 years old with clear frame glasses and short dark hair with a peppering of gray in places. I'm sitting on lands of the Osage, Cherokee, and Shawnees people. And I'm wearing my very favorite lime green pinstripe shirt, the green being the juicy part of the lime, that green. I come to you as a white woman raised working class in rural Kentucky, where women went to the fields to help with tobacco crops and to the barns to milk cows, canned vegetables in the summers and quilted in the winters, and sometimes, like my mom, did all that on top of a job outside the home. And I assume, like many of you on this call, my heart is heavy with holding the pain of white women in my family who voted for Trump. I have a sister who did and one who would not. The sister who voted for Trump is the same one who would give me her allowance so I could buy something when we went to town that cost more than my own allowance. And how do we hold all these complexities and contradictions in these critical times? At the same time, like Erin mentioned, my step is certainly lighter and my heart more hopeful in the development of the last few days. As Mab Seeger said in an email to me yesterday, yes, it's really so much more fun now that it's not a straight road to hell. Let's talk about that road, the one we've been on, the one we're on now, and what's ahead. This moment is similar to the context and climate of when we started Surge 15 years ago. In the brutal and violent aftermath of electing the first Black president, a well-funded right wing was relentless in vicious attacks on Obama personally and any fair-minded policy, especially healthcare. And our work came out of knowing what those attacks meant, the racist underpinnings in all of them, healthcare, immigrants, economic justice, and the exponential growth of armed right-wing militias. Black people and whites in racial justice work ask, what are white people doing to take this on? This is a deep and critical moment. What are white people doing? And in that question was not just what are we doing, but what are we going to do? Because we need more. Surge came out of those call to action conversations, not to go off by ourselves and navel gaze, but to show up with purpose and strategy and show up with bodies and accountability to go get our own. And getting our own, I want to talk specifically about the Surge core value of calling in. Like many of you, I'm pretty incredulous that people I know and love can pull that lever for Donald Trump. I just want to shout, are you effing kidding me? At the same time, nobody likes to be called a racist, even when we are. And please notice my possessive pronoun here, not even when they are, even when we are. And nobody likes to be called stupid. So as we dig deep in White House against white women against MAGA or white women for Kamala Harris, we are asked to hold complexity and contradiction in how we do that calling in. And in these next months, let's be clear, our calling in value with openness and inquiry and open heart is going to be so strained. Well, let's hold on to it as a core value. What is the space we're inviting more white women to step into? Who are the gettable white women? We don't have to get everybody. There are some white women we are not after, but we do have to get more of us for two reasons, short-term and long-term. One, because of the unfair game of the Electoral College, when the urgency of this moment, and two, beyond the election, in order to build power, to have the kind of society we want to live in, one that values people and justice and fairness. It is true that a lot of white people throughout history have chosen the racism baked into our system from the get-go. It is also true that we stand on the shoulders of white people who have made other choices and thrown their lives on the freedom side. One of those is Anne Braden, whose 100th birthday is this Sunday, July 28th, and we are commemorating that here in Louisville at the Braden Center with a community barbecue. Come on, up, down, or over. Anne reminds us that the fight against racism is not something we're called on to help people of color with. We need to become involved as if our lives depend on it, because in truth, they do. Many of you on this call are going to be familiar with that quote. If it's a new one to you or not, it's a great one to print, put on your refrigerator or above your computer, and talk about with your friends and neighbors. I want to close with the story about door knocking for Obama in 2008. I was at the Highlander Center at the time living in East Tennessee, and wanted to be part of a Southern red state going blue. So I volunteered in Southwest Virginia, coal country. I was working a turf in Bristol, walking down a sidewalk, when a heavily tattooed man in a muscle tee called out to me from his front porch, "Hey, I want to talk to you." He wasn't on my call sheet, but I was wearing an Obama shirt and didn't want to ignore him. So I stopped and went toward him, admittedly bracing myself a bit. Turns out he was an avid Obama supporter and was actively working to get others to join him in that effort. I had made an assumption and he blew it wide open. We cannot walk past people like that. And some of those are white women out there who have been written off and are waiting for people like us to find them and talk with them. I'm so excited to be amping up our work to do that with you. And now I want to pass this on to dear friend and fellow Kentuckian who definitely knows a lot about fist held high and boots on the ground, Beth Howard.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Pam and Aaron. It is an honor to be here with you and to see all of you out there. Oh my God, almost 5,000 of you. This is thrilling. So my name is Beth Howard. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a white woman with curly blonde hair, short, glasses, and pink lipstick. I grew up in rural Eastern Kentucky, and I live in Lexington now, and I am the Appalachia People's Union Director for Showing Up for Racial Justice. I am the daughter of Debbie, the granddaughter of Roberta and Clella. I'm the great-granddaughter of Ethel, Burl, Maddie, and Arzetta, and I was raised by strong, working-class Appalachian women. Similar to Pam's family, they raised children, they worked in the home, they were farmers. They also had jobs outside of the home, like my grandmother, Clella, who was a teacher, and my mom, who was a grocery store clerk for decades, and then a factory worker. And even though we lived in a patriarchal culture where men were considered the head of the household and they were in charge, everyone knew that the women were the ones running everything, and they made it all happen. There were many times that men hurt us, but even in the midst of all of that suffering, it never destroyed us. And actually, we came together, my family, our neighbors, and every time we came together, we women and children became more powerful together. And my friends, tonight, all of us, we are going to do the same thing in coalition with women of color. And this is what we must do now. We are in a critical moment when women can determine the future of this country, and we as white women have an important role to play. As Erin pointed out, Black women are doing their part to block MAGA, and they always do their part to defend this country from those who will hurt us in every single election. And we as white women must do our part too. And here at Surge, we white women find our shared interest in being in true solidarity with women of color, to know that there is nothing good for us, that there is nothing just in us aligning ourselves with white men. And that in order for us to have what we all need, we have to come together with other women, white, Black, and brown, in a powerful coalition. Growing up, my mother was in multiple abusive relationships, physically and emotionally abusive. There was stalking, and it was a constant terror. She was a mother of two, working for minimum wage with no benefits. She needed a second income, which often led to her being in relationships with men who were violent. And in order for us to be safe, we had to leave with very little money in our pocket and nowhere to go. And that is a similar story of what women all over this country and beyond have to do on a regular basis. I don't come to this work to help people of color, but I come to this work because, just like Pam and Ann Braden said, the world will be better for all of us when we win racial and economic justice. All of the things that my family, my mother, my brother, and I needed, healthcare, housing, food, safety, well-funded public schools, the right to our own bodies, lies on the other side of choosing to be in true solidarity with women of color. We build power at Surge through organizing around shared interest. And so organizing works. I've been doing it for a long time. And so I'm going to tell you a story about how it worked in my beloved Commonwealth of Kentucky. In 2022, the Kentucky State Legislature introduced a ballot initiative that would enshrine a near total ban on abortions in the state constitution. We joined up with a statewide coalition called Protect Kentucky Access, and we won. People were shocked that this could happen in Kentucky, a majority white state that went for Trump by a large margin. But we knew we could win it, and we won it by talking to people. Surge ran the largest field program in the state. We had 20,000 conversations with white, majority working class voters, and they came with us. 1 out of 4 people we spoke with moved from disagreeing with our campaign to supporting it after a conversation with a Surge member. In the places we contacted, we saw people go against their party line to support our campaign. And in rural Boyd County, where the organizing project that I helped start is, Kentucky People's Union, we were only 1 percentage point away from winning, while the average support for the campaign in the counties with all around Boyd County that had nearly identical demographics had a gap of 20%. The truth is that people are movable. We have to talk to them. We aren't going for the hardened Trump people, but we are going for the people who are already with us or who might come along with us once we talk to them. We are going for the people who are looking for us. Kentucky showed us, and I know from experience, that working class women will come with us. They are just waiting on us to ask them, to give them an opportunity to get involved. And so as I come to a close, I just want to say, anytime that there is an opportunity to block rich white men from hurting us, I will take that fight every single time. And so I am excited to be in this fight with you all. This is our responsibility. Let's do this. So I am going to pass it to Rukia Lumumba, who is the Director of Movement for the Black Lives Action Fund. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. It's so good to be on with you all. I'm Rukia Lumumba. I'm a caramel colored Black woman with long chestnut brown hair, dark brown hair, and daisy brown glasses, and a white and black keffiyeh. I'm sitting right now in Chicago, Illinois, or what we call Northern Mississippi, home of the Natchez and Choctaw people. I am the director of the Electoral Justice Project of the Movement for Black Lives Action Fund. And the Movement for Black Lives was formed as a result of the murder of Michael Brown. And it's a national network of more than 150 leaders and organizations that come together to create a broad political home for Black people to learn, to organize, and to take action. And so our organization includes activists, organizers, academics, lawyers, educators, health workers, artists, and so much more. But we're all unified in a radical vision for Black liberation and working for equity, justice, and healing. Myself, I had a strange road to electoral justice or to electoral organizing. I grew up in Jackson, Mississippi, where Black people vote above the national average and white people vote below it. During Reconstruction, Black and poor white people collaborated to take over the state legislature, y'all, and had a strong united front that was aggressively attacked by white supremacist power structures. And we have yet to see that strong unity in Mississippi ever since. As a result, Black people, brown people, poor white people, and TGNC people in Mississippi experienced the brunt of underfunded healthcare systems, lack of affordable housing, closing hospitals, a decrease in food assistance, but an increase in food costs. We need you all, y'all. We need every single white woman on this call to organize that everywhere that white people live, even in places like Mississippi, where whether you believe it or not, 49% of voters have continuously voted for progressive candidates. And even more have voted for progressive policies, like the passage of medical marijuana, the removal of the Confederate emblem in our state flag, and the end to a Jim Crow electoral college law. We need you to organize. And I know it's dangerous, and I know it's hard, and I know the conversations are traumatic, but life is traumatic for Black folks, for brown folks, for poor folks in Mississippi and across this nation. And we need you to have those courageous conversations. We need you. And so I'm really pushing and asking for those of you who are on this call to push those in your family to also join you in the effort to organize white people across this nation to participate in this electoral session and to ensure that they're doing so in the right way. This election, the Movement for Black Lives and the M4BL Action Fund, we're going to prioritize, and we are prioritizing, organizing for the best conditions possible for us to continue our work toward a free Black future. We will continue to combat fascism in all its forms, and we will challenge any efforts to dismantle what systems we do have that offer our people some protection. The majority of people, especially Black people across this country, have been increasingly feeling unsafe. And I know many of you all know what I'm talking about because you all have heard it and may feel it yourself. And many of us as Black people are fed a narrative that this feeling stems from the threat of other, often Black, brown, or queer folks pose to each other. But we know that that's not true. We know the truth is that we feel unsafe because we lack the basic community systems of care that create the stability and the safety we need. Healthcare, affordable housing, food access, mental health care, bodily autonomy, alternatives to policing and incarceration, and a government that is accountable to the people instead of corporations. These are the real safety issues people are facing, and they'll be the grounding focus of our organizing this election. We say her name, Sonia Massey. Her life and murder tell the story of our fear in this country and our insecurity with the current political system. And that's why we are mobilizing a vote for safety, and we need you to do the same. Join us. Our People's Response campaign that M4BL is launching is not just an advocacy effort for policy change, it is a call to action for our people to elect champions of legislation that care about us, our families, our children, our elders, our mental health, and our lives. Throughout our ecosystem, our members and especially our organizers will mobilize Black folks across the country to vote, especially in down ballot races, which can have the most significant and direct impacts on your day-to-day lives. So we're going to have 40 community safety town halls across the nation, and we want you to tap in and join us and help us to organize people towards these. You know, we also know that our people, and many of you on this call, may be tired of the current two-party system. And since the inception of EJP, our Electoral Justice Project, in 2017, we have been calling for an end to an electoral college system. But this year, you guys, we're up against fascism, and we must create a united front to defeat it. And so the nomination of Vice President Harris for president has moved our communities from a place of outright fear, from embarrassment and disengagement, to excitement and participation. And we have to maximize on this opportunity. We know that Vice President Harris is not a movement candidate, and Black people are not ignorant. We know her record on policing issues. Our people and our members, though, are encouraged that Vice President Harris can defeat right, conservative, white supremacist authoritarianism. We also stand firmly in the principle that the misogynist attacks on Vice President Harris and her candidacy are unacceptable. And we believe in principled critique of any candidate's policies, but will challenge the misogynoir every time we encounter it. These are not mutually exclusive. And we ask you, I plead with you to join us in ensuring that every time we see misogynist rhetoric around VP Harris, that we attack it. We attack it collectively, and we push for what we know is the truth. We also understand that this united front requires us to align the left in this election moment towards a united front to protect our democracy. And so we have to ensure that we're bringing in all of our forces, even those who have never engaged in the electoral process before. I'll tell you a short story. My father, the late Chokwe Lumumba, former mayor of Jackson, Mississippi, and longtime human rights activist and lawyer. The first time he voted was when he voted for himself to serve as city council. Most of my life, he did not believe in the electoral process because he had not seen how the electoral process had benefited Black people. He had only been witness to harm after harm after harm. But after the horrible conditions we saw after Hurricane Katrina, he decided that it was time for us to experiment after being led by our young members of our organization, that it was time for us to experiment with politics, to actually create movement candidates that would actually help our people have control over the resources that govern our lives. And so he decided to run for city council. He won city council, and he was pushed by the community to run for mayor. And he ran for mayor and won mayor in the capital city of Mississippi, known as Jackson, Mississippi. This was a revolutionary act that he took and won. If my father, a strong revolutionary, could change his mind and began to experiment with electoral politics, I know we can change the minds of so many other left-facing members of our community who don't want to engage in the electoral process. We can bring them in and make sure that we're exercising this united front. And so before I jump, there's also a few things that I wanted to share about the information that people are getting, or correctly stated, the disinformation that people are getting. Onyx Impact did a research-focused survey where they focused on the states of Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, North Carolina, Ohio, Mississippi, Alabama, and South Carolina. And what they found is a lot of information that is helpful to us when we're thinking about this election cycle. They found that far-right activists have a potential reach of 11 million people. They found that the narratives that they're pushing lead to people not wanting to vote and are misleading narratives about civic disengagement, about Biden broken promises and stoking division. They also saw that aggressively counter civic disengagement and revisionist history messaging found that not many groups or messengers were combating that we're not talking enough, we're not showing up in those forums to really combat that messaging. And so the takeaway is that we shouldn't ignore these gateway platforms and messengers. We got to make sure that we are getting our people good information, and that these platforms are important to reach all audiences, right? And that these platforms don't just focus on mainstream news. These platforms are in radio, they're on YouTube shows, they're on podcasts as well. And so we have to be showing up and making our voice loud and clear, even in these platforms where our people are beginning to look. And so I just want to, again, thank you for having me. And I want to ask you to continue to push and support efforts to get out this vote, y'all. Let's make this united front stronger than it has ever been in the past, stronger than the united front we had during Freedom Summer in the 1960s, stronger than the united front we had during Reconstruction. We have to make this united front the strongest front in the history of this nation. We have the power, and collectively, we can begin to change the conditions of our people nationwide. Thank you. I appreciate y'all.
Thank you so much, Rukia. Give Rukia some love in the chat. Y'all keep it coming. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. It's so powerful to be here with our partners. Y'all, if you are ready to take action, we are just about there. We're going to hear from our friend Kristen about what it looks like to take action with Surge. And we're also going to drop those links in the chat. One note, we're going to be losing our friends Max and Els. They're going to hop off at 8 to go to another Surge call. So if you need the interpretation, you can switch to captions in the bottom right. Keep it coming. All right, Kristen, what do you got for us?
Thank you. I'm so moved by everyone here. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kristen Brock-Petrosius. I'm zooming in from Hamden, Connecticut. I'm a white woman with medium length brown hair, black glasses, cool tattoo on my shoulder, and I have been involved in Surge since 2009, since the beginning. So I wanted to share a bit about my story, how I became involved in Surge, and why I continue time and time again to keep choosing Surge as my political home. So I grew up in a small working class city between Milwaukee and Chicago, Waukegan, Illinois. And when my parents were growing up there were a lot of operating factories. But by the time I was born in the 80s, most of the factories had shut down, the jobs had left, and the companies had left behind lots of pollution. So I remember some days we would try to go swimming on Lake Michigan, but we had to check to see if the asbestos levels were low enough that they would let us go swimming or not. When I was a teenager, they told us to stop drinking the tap water because the toxins were leaching into the water from Superfund sites. It was only then that I started to learn that my hometown had really, really high cancer rates, which eventually led to my dad dying young and my sister getting cancer when she was just in her 30s. I also grew up with an abusive dad and in a family with lots of repression mixed with homophobia and racism. Can anyone relate? I remember being taught this sort of twin message, kind of implicitly throughout my entire childhood, that Black and brown people, immigrants, they were the problem. They were who we should fear. They were who we should blame. And in believing that, despite our problems, the toxic environment, the decline in job opportunities, and the violence in my own family, we could convince ourselves that we were fine because we were not Black. That's how the right's very, very old divide and conquer strategy works, right? Now, there's a part to this story that I've only told a few people in my life. But I'm about to share with you thousands of people. And I don't talk about it often because I honestly feel some shame about it. But so when I was 15 years old, I was actually organized through my church into the anti-abortion movement. I was a young person trying to make sense of the world, and my Christian upbringing did call on me to care about injustice, to want to make things better. And clearly there were certain forces at play who knew how to find me. They knew how to organize me. They had strategy around people like me. And some of these are the same forces that are now with MAGA. I am so fortunate that a series of experiences and relationships have brought me into, into social justice movement work, and then even more deeply into racial justice. This movement has helped me understand how racism affects all of us and how we only win a true multiracial democracy. We only get real safety. We only get clean air, water, adequate income, good jobs, housing, education, and healthcare when we join together for racial and economic justice and to address climate change. This is why Surge has been my political home since the beginning. My life now is a little different than when I was a kid. I have a wife and kids who are Black and multiracial. One of my kids is transgender. So the MAGA attacks are very personal to me, what it can mean, in terms of the politics going forward these next few years. The stakes are about the ability of my kids to lead decent lives, and in some ways just to be able to live, period. So when I think of all the ways I could be involved in politics or social change over these last about 20 years, I, just reflect that I keep choosing Surge over and over again. I am so grateful that there were people who brought me into the movement rather than leave me for the right. And I want to do my part to bring more people, to invite more people into action. I also only have so much time and energy, especially as a worker and a mom. And I want to do work that's strategic, that's intentional, that's investing in working class communities and creating opportunities for us all to learn and grow as leaders. I choose Surge because we do need to mobilize around elections and defeat MAGA. And there's more to it than that, right? We also need the collective power of organizing and the longer term strategy built by movements and our partners to build the power we need to win. And this might sound a little strange, but I'm a Capricorn. So I like thinking, the long term. So I think about how at the end of my life, I hope to live to be 100. At the end of my life, I really do want the peace of knowing that my kids will inherit a stronger multiracial democracy than what we have today, that they'll inherit a world with more economic, racial, and climate justice than what we have now. I choose Surge because for me as a white person, I think it's the most likely way that I can help make that desire come true, right? It's just a practical choice. This is how we do it. So are y'all ready to join me and join Surge to take action to not only stop MAGA, but to build social change movements that bring people like my family in alongside communities of color? I am going to, it's a lot. I'm going to pass it over to, I think, Taryn, Ava, and Rachel, who are going to give you the plan. Thank you.
All right, Kristen, let's get the chat back on. Let's give it up for Kristen. If any part of her story resonated with you, please put a heart in the chat. And let's give some flowers for Rukia for grounding us in the united front it's going to take to stop fascism in this country. We are so blessed to be working with you. Hey, everybody. My name is Taryn. I'm a white woman. I've got a a red and white striped shirt on that my sister Molly gave me. Hey, Molly, I know you're on this call. I am from Maine. If you're from Maine, saw a couple people earlier. Put some sort of Maine themed emoji in the chat, please. And I'm from an Irish Catholic family. Shout out to my cousins on this call. We talk fast, so I'm going to try to be like our Southern speakers and slow down. And I am presenting, drum roll please, and slideshow please, the game plan, folks. Shout out to Megan Rapino for boosting this call tonight. We love you. Okay, this is like the huddle on the plan. Next slide, please. Here's a quick roadmap for my little section. We're going to start by grounding in 3 core assumptions underlying our plan. We're going to get squared away on the deets of the plan. So for all of the Capricorns among us, like Kristen, for the Virgos, hey mom, for the folks who loved that Elizabeth Warren was a woman with a plan, we are going to talk about the plan and programs that you, yes, you can join to find belonging, meaning, and effective use of your time to defeat Trump and MAGA this November and beyond. Okay, next slide, please. 3 core assumptions. Next slide, please. Okay, number 1. Folks, we exist in the context of history. We exist in the context of this country, and white people have a critical role to play, which is organizing each other. Next slide, please. Okay, the first part of this is that our country was not designed to be a multiracial democracy. The 100% male, 100% white, 100% wealthy founding fathers set up an infrastructure, including the Electoral College, which we use to determine the winner of presidential elections, and the Senate, that disproportionately favor the voices of white, originally men, and people. So not only do we have a majority in number, but we have an outsized voice. And the gains that have been made throughout our country's history, go back 1, please, Charlie. The gains that have been made throughout our country's history, led by Black visionaries and organizers like Fannie Lou Hamer and Ella Baker during the Civil Rights Movement, have been ruthlessly attacked by a concerted push to strip back progress by the right, and then upheld by recent court decisions by the courts that they've rigged. So the takeaway here on this first piece of context is we cannot afford to just ignore white voters. Okay, next slide, Charlie. And we know that when we, those of us who care about living in a multiracial democracy, don't talk with other white people, we're leaving them wide open for the following folks to talk to them. Tucker Carlson with his bullshit racist conspiracy theories, Fox News, the KKK. This is a picture that my dear friend Sarah Bigney took of a flyer that was put on her car in Hallwell, Maine in 2017. Lest we think it's a thing with the past, it's not. And then of course, this guy, Donald Trump. Men like Donald Trump have stayed in power in this country for hundreds of years by convincing enough working class, poor, middle class white people that they have more in common with rich white men like him than we do with people of color, with other women, queers. There are way more of us than there are of them. And so he's using the oldest playbook in the history of this country, but he's having some success at peeling off enough white voters. Next slide, please. We know what happens when we leave white folks wide open for the right. We've seen these graphs before. This is a breakdown along race and gender of 2016 and 2020. Okay, next slide. I want to bring us back one more time to 2016. When we were putting together this call, I saw this photo for the first time in a while, and it sort of burned into my brain. But it really brought back a lot for me. I was thinking about the morning after the election, sitting on the floor with 2 of my coworkers of the Maine People's Alliance, Amy and Bridget, and we just had tears streaming down our face. And I thought about the onslaught of articles and memes, some of which I've screenshotted in this slide. White women sold out the sisterhood in the world by voting for Trump. White women need to admit we let this happen, like white women are bad. And even though I've, of course, voted against Trump, and I was even an organizer at the time, organizing other people in the election, I just internalized some of those messages. And I was like, damn, like I am part of the worst demographic in this country. It's our fault. This sucks. I suck. Okay, next slide, please. I want to bring in Brene Brown. Please put a heart in the chat if you're a fan of Brene Brown. Okay, yeah, this is a call of like thousands of white women. We got some Brene Brown fans among us. She defines shame as the intensely painful feeling of experience of believing that we're flawed and therefore unworthy of love and belonging. A couple people have mentioned shame already, and I'm glad, because I was feeling shame at that time, and shame makes us feel small. It makes us want to hide and can make us feel stuck. And so what Erin described at the beginning of this call, like distancing from other white women, I am ashamed to say I was doing that too. I was like, I'm not like them. When really what we need is to be like, actually, I love myself. I love my sisters. I love my white friends. Like, we need to talk to each other. We need to boost each other up. We need to be like, y'all, let's get information. We can do this. Go talk to other white women, including some white men, and build our own white stripe of the multiracial rainbow, the multiracial working class we need to win. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, great segue too. This is context point number 2, underlying our plan, unburdened by what has been, another Kamala joke here, unburdened by history, not doomed to repeat our own mistakes, not doomed to collectively repeat our mistakes. We can win this election, and we can build our movements for gender justice, racial justice, economic justice for the long run while we're at it. Next slide, please. Okay, Trump has never won a majority, y'all. He has lost the popular vote twice, and every time MAGA is on the ballot, it loses. Midterm elections, we were around, many of us volunteered, worked really hard on those. The majority of Americans do not want to live in a theocratic plutocracy, aka a country run by rich Christian white nationalist men. They don't have a majority, and one of the tremendous openings of Biden stepping back is that after weeks and even months of the media coverage being dominated by him as a candidate, we have the opportunity to reframe the debate and stakes of this election to be about MAGA and Project 2025 and what they're trying to do. And we know if we do that, we can win. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, 15 weeks, y'all. It's tight, but it's doable. In France earlier this summer, voters turned out to defeat the far right at 40-year historic high levels. And they did that after Macron called the election. Like a week later, they turned it around in a week. We can do it in 15 weeks. Everyone think back to 2020, going on lockdown. That was a dramatic change in a short amount of time. And then after the horrific police murders of Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, millions of us poured into the streets. And that felt like a dramatic change in a very short amount of time. Our opposition wants us to believe that the status quo is fixed and that change happens very, very slowly and incrementally. But the fact is, time is weird, y'all. Anyone who's ever held a baby before, shout out to my nieces, Ella Ray and Sloan, if you're watching, I love you. If you ever held a baby before, you know time is not linear and change happens in fits and bursts, and we are in that moment right now. Lastly, the internet exists. I included a photo here of JD Vance, who very mistakenly made a comment about childless cat ladies. Let's get some childless cat ladies in the chat. And also, if you are a Swiftie and you're here tonight, you all came out strong on Monday night. If you're back with us, let's turn on the chat. Let's find out if we've got Swifties among us. Incredible. Okay, so TLDR, 15 weeks, it's short. However, this is the third context point. Victory will not just fall out of a coconut tree. We're going to have to work for it, folks. Next slide, please. We need to convert the anti-MAGA majority into actual votes cast. We know that most people are with us, but we actually have to really focus on where the key voters are in the key places and talk to folks and get them out to vote. That is our core assignment. Next slide. Okay, we don't have to do it all. We have to do our part. The margins for the last 2 elections were really small. Those same electoral structures I mentioned earlier, the Electoral College primarily, it means that the election is going to come down to a maddeningly tiny number of states and a maddeningly tiny number of voters in those states. So we have to be laser focused on those folks. I was part of the Obama campaign, and the field director of the Obama campaign used to call New York and California, the big blue states, the Death Star, because all the volunteers in those big populated states that weren't swing states were on phones every night and be like, where are we going to point the Death Star? Well, at Surge, this is cheesy. We're cheesy white people. We call it the Life Star because we're filled with love and light. And if you join us, we're going to point the light star to the places where we know the margins are going to matter most. Next slide, please. We want to stay laser focused. We want to stay in our lane. We are in partnership with the Movement for Black Lives Electoral Justice Project, with the Working Families Party, Rising Majority, Action St. Louis. They're in the upper right-hand corner. We're working with them really hard right now to re-elect Congresswoman Cori Bush in St. Louis, Missouri. This is the Black Voters Matter Project in Georgia. Y'all, Black folks are very good at turnout in their community. They have literally led every movement for democracy in our country's history. They got it. We got to stay in our lane. We got to go talk to our people. Okay, next slide. Plan deets. Are we ready? Here we go. Crux of the plan, like I've been saying and others have mentioned, key white voters in key places. If you picture the swing voter that the media loves to profile, maybe sitting at a diner in New Hampshire, that person doesn't really exist this year. Like, everyone knows who Trump is. People are not confused about, are they going to vote for Trump or Biden, or in this case, Trump or Kamala. Most people who are in the category of like voters who are going to decide this election are actually questioning whether to vote at all. They're deeply disillusioned with the political process, some for pretty good reason. Disenfranchised, turned off from typical Democratic campaigns, or maybe not reached by Democrats at all. I mean, all of the time, Surge is calling into places where Democrats, frankly, haven't made calls for years or even decades. And that is the exact group of people that the Trump campaign is trying to win, because they know that there actually is a ceiling on their support. So now they're going after those folks that we need to target as well. And we need to talk to white women. I can't tell you how many doors I've knocked on where a husband will answer the door and very gruffly tell me, like, we are voting this way in our household. And I can like see the wife behind him and I'm like, you sure? Okay, I'll come back. I'll come back. We know there are a lot of split households and we need to go get other white women. Okay, next slide, please. In terms of where, you've seen swing state maps before. Surge has done an extensive analysis of where the key white voters are and where the movement ecosystem needs us. So you might notice that Michigan and Pennsylvania aren't on this map. That's because there's really strong groups holding it down there. We're going to be in Arizona, Nevada, Ohio for the Senate, Georgia, Wisconsin, and North Carolina. We're going to be knocking on doors. You can come with us through our partners Seed the Vote. They pay for lodging, transportation, make it really easy to come knock doors. And we're going to have incredible phone programs to be reaching out to voters in those places. Okay, next slide, please. Quick recap on our approach. You've heard this from others in the call, but the first thing is we're rooted in why we're doing this. We're not here because we're trying to be good allies. White privilege is real, but it is not an organizing strategy. We got to get clear with ourselves around who am I fighting for? What am I fighting for? What's my own stake in this work? Our approach is focused on listening, asking questions, trying to understand where people are at instead of talking at people or arguing with them. So if you have been feeling nervous about phone banking in the 2024 election because you're like, I don't want to like debate a hardcore MAGA person, don't worry. We don't want you to do that either. We're not targeting them. We're not trying to change their minds, and we are not encouraging you to argue with people. We're trying to ask questions, understand where people are coming from, find a point of connection, because that's what it actually takes to change people's minds. And we're very effective. We're very effective at building programs that are giving a good sense of belonging and keeping you in this fight. And we're really effective at persuading and at our campaign work. Okay, next slide, please. Here's an example. We're going to run through how you can get involved in a minute, and you can see the links. I encourage everyone to check it out right now, the organize and donate links. Here's an example. It's a cohort program where every other week we're going to have incredible movement speakers like Rukia grounding us in history, latest updates on the campaign, a space for community and connection. And then in the off weeks, make phone calls into key swing states. It's a weekly commitment you can make between now and the election. The most effective way to get into motion is to be in community and stay together. Okay, next slide. I want to close by bringing us back to 2016, bring myself back there, bring us all back there. And instead of feeling shame, think about what's the opposite of shame. Think about how can I show up in my full love and sense of belonging and sense of power and sense of answering the call that Black organizers have been making of us of decades to go get our own this election and beyond. And with that, I want to turn it over to my friend and colleague, Ava.
Thank you, Taryn. Okay, team. You have been asking in the Q&A all night, how do we take action? So let's get into it. My name is Ava Bynum. I use they, them pronouns. I'm Surge's Director of Impact. I'm a white queer person with a braid on top of my head. And I have a photo of my aunt and my grandmother pinned as my Zoom background tonight. And they're here because they're two of the women who shape who I am, who shaped our movement, and who have asked people to do exactly what I'm about to ask all 4,000 people on this call to do, which is to take action. I know you all have a Faye, this is my Aunt Faye, or a Mimi, it's my grandmother Mimi in your life. So Charlie, Ash, if we could open up the chat for a second, I would love folks to drop in. Who is a woman who has stretched beyond what she was told she could do, who has defied the rules of patriarchy, who has shown up to defeat white supremacy, who has transcended the class expectations she was told, and has been bold in building her commitment towards a better world. We all have a Mimi, we all have a Faye in our life. They're all here with us. My Aunt Faye was an organizer in Georgia in the 60s, and this year we're organizing there for the Harris campaign. So our first ask is to get in on some of the best run, the most joyful, the most impactful electoral work you can do this season. We are complementing the Harris campaign because we're talking to persuadable white voters in turf they're not covering. There are 4,000 people on this call. We want to get 1,000 of you signed up. That's 1 in 4. We can totally do that. To join our Many Over the MAGA team, you just heard Taryn say, you can do it from anywhere. Thousands of people around the country in community working on this election together. Come knock doors with us in Wisconsin, in North Carolina, in Arizona, in Nevada. White women. Let's get some other white women. We are having a White Women Against MAGA phone bank on Friday. Invite your mom, invite your sister, invite your bestie. And white men, we did not forget about you. Our call for White Men Against MAGA is tomorrow. If all 4,000 people on this call thought of 3 white men in your lives who should be on that call, that would be transformational. Can you help get white men to show up for this election season? And if you're ready to fundraise in your own community, because we know white people need to move some money right now, you can sign up for our grassroots fundraising call next week. Sign up for any of these things, even if you're curious, and we'll tell you more about it. So our second ask is to raise the money we need to flank the Harris campaign, to put organizers on the ground, to get her elected. My grandmother is here because she was a fundraiser for Planned Parenthood in the 80s and shocked her socialite friends by talking about abortion rights and asking them for money to fund abortion work. We can all move something meaningful to us. It might be $1, $10, $1,000. I want you all to think really seriously about what you can move tonight as a split donation between Surge and Movement for Black Lives, 2 organizations who are really showing up in this moment to flank the Harris campaign and make sure we win this election. Think about how much power white women have abdicated when it comes to money, and then think about your family, your friends, who you have access to, and give something that puts you in this fight and puts some skin in the game. We need to make sure Black movement work is well resourced, and we need to take responsibility for gathering our own folks too. We are doing a joint fundraiser to make sure we can move together as a multiracial movement with all of the resources we need to win. We are funding to strategically flank the Harris campaign. The link is in the chat. We're going to put people on the doors. We're making phone calls. I think we can raise $100,000 tonight because there's 4,000 people on this call. We can absolutely do that for Surge and M4BL to make this election a success. I'm going to bring up a comrade, a movement donor, a powerhouse in her own right to share about how she is showing up in this moment, Rachel.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel. So nice to be with you all. Thanks, Ava, and thanks everyone for speaking on this call. It's been so inspiring and amazing to be with you all. I'm a white woman with long curly brown hair, and I'm wearing a black shirt with some white flowers on it. I'm calling in from Oakland, California. And in addition to being a Surge supporter, I'm also a community organizer and a mom. And I've been supporting Surge since 2017. I'm a Surge supporter because I believe white people have a vital role to play in building a multiracial, cross-class movement to ensure that all people have access to what they need and the ability to thrive. And I believe Surge is doing some of the most important work to get white people invested in that vision and to see ourselves as part of it. We all have a role to play in building a cross-class movement for racial, gender, and economic justice. As a white woman, I am showing up not just for Harris and against Trump, but for the long work ahead of organizing against authoritarianism and towards the multiracial democracy we need, because we know that this work doesn't start and end with this election. As white women, this moment requires that we acknowledge our power, including how we engage with the resources we have. So white women, this is the time to go big, to be real about our access, whatever it may be, and to throw down to get organizers on the ground to defeat Trump. I don't want to look back at this moment and feel that I could have done more to protect our democracy and elect Harris. I'm personally digging deep and asking my parents to help me out in this moment so that I can make a $25,000 donation to Surge and Movement for Black Lives. So right now, think about what you can move. Is it $10,000? Is it $10? If you're a Swiftie, is it $13 or $113 or $1,013? We need it all. Join me. Put your money on the line and build a collective safety net rather than an individual one. Choose liberation, choose the movement. I would love if every single person on this call donated right now at any amount. This moment needs us all, and I'm grateful to be in it with you.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Okay, coming at you, folks. We have almost 300 people signed up to take action. We have over $60,000 raised. 2 people just texted me that they're each donating $10,000 to match Rachel. Friends, you were maybe taught, like me, to give up your power, not just around money, but around everything. This is a moment to take it back. We cannot win unless we are in this together. White women can fund this election in a really meaningful way if we choose to do it, if we lean into our power instead of away from it. Thank you all so much for giving your time and your money to Surge. We are up to $97,000. That is almost our goal, to split between Surge and Movement for Black Lives to show up for the Harris campaign. This is such an intense moment. If you haven't donated yet, do it. If you haven't signed up for action, do it. Owning class folks, do not shrink your power in this moment. Do not downplay what you can give. Move 250, 500, 1,000, even 10,000. Match Rachel. Middle class folks, can you give 50 or 100? Working class folks, can you move $5, $10, $25 to fund this work? We have gotten Trump out once. We can get him out again. I am so proud of the work of this community to be with you all. We are up to $133,000. We are climbing. People are signing up to action. $144,000, y'all. Blowing the goal out of the water. I love to see it. See you all out there. We got this. We are splitting our donations once again between Surge and Movement for Black Lives. So anything you give is getting split between these 2 orgs who are flanking the Harris campaign on the ground to get out the voters we need to make sure she wins. So grateful to be in this. Thank you to all of our speakers. Thank you to all of you for coming. Tell a friend. Let's go get our folks. This is our moment. We are up to $160,000 to split between Surge and Movement for Black Lives. Thousands of people signing up to take action. We have made it to our closing. Thank you all for being here. We are going to put up some music to celebrate with the link so you can keep signing up to take action, keep donating. Thank you all for being here. Thank you so much. Good night. Thank you for coming. Glad to be in this movement with you.
I woke up feeling great. The birds are in the trees. They're singing me a melody. La 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 la, fuck the police. My head is on straight. My heart is in peace. My soul is incredibly ready to change its story. It's a good day to fight the system. To fight the system. It's a good day. It's a good day. We're never gonna us is tired out, the other one will hold it down. We're gonna spread the love, we're gonna spread it round. We're all over the city now, and we're down in the underground. It's a good day to fight the system, to fight the system. It's a good day. It's a good day. It's a good day to fight the system, to fight the system. I woke up feeling great. The birds are in the trees. They're singing me a melody. La 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 la, fuck the police. My head is on straight. My heart is in peace. My soul is incredibly ready to change its story. It's a good day to fight the system, to fight the system. It's a good day. It's a good day. We're never gonna stop. We're gonna make it count. When one of us is tired out, the other one will hold it down. We're gonna spread the love, we're gonna spread it round. We're all over the city now, and we're down in the underground. It's a good day to fight the system, to fight the system. It's a good day. It's a good day. It's a good day to fight the system, to fight the system. I woke up feeling great. The birds are in the trees.